So what's my study schedule like and what resources do I use? Studying for the Mcat that I'm taking in under 2 months, working a full-time job as an orthopedic technician in a hospital. Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new to the channel, my name is Josh and I'm currently a pre-med student taking a gap year before applying to medical school this coming cycle. While I'm taking the Mcat in March, I'm currently studying right now. At the time that I'm filming this, I have about 45 days until I take that test. Now, I think there are a lot of big resources that I've seen other people use that I didn't feel like would work for me or were simply out of my price range. I know that medical school has an incredibly expensive application, with every individual school costing roughly $100 to apply to. So if I wanted to apply to all 10 schools that I have in state, that alone would be $1,000, much less all of the secondary applications that I have and going to travel to places for interviews, getting a hotel, a flight, all of that stuff, probably spending $2 to $3 grand for this application cycle to potentially be rejected and have to do it all over again next year. Now, it was personally out of my price range to buy a tutor that would cost $3,000 to $4,000 for an actual one-on-one tutoring session for however long I decided to get that for. But I also didn't have a ton of time to study as I've been working full time. And so I wanted to do less hours weekly studying because I've been working 40 plus hours and do that over a longer period of time. So instead of studying for 2 months full time, I've been doing about 4 months just under part time. So I started back in November. I had November, December, January, and February, and then I take it March 9th, which is the first week. So roughly 4 months of studying. I'm doing about 24 hours, so I guess it's a little over half time studying for the Mcat. So what resources do I use? Well, I've got a Kaplan Quick Sheets book, the Princeton Review for General Chemistry, the Princeton Review for Overall Science, Princeton Review for Biology, the Mcat Cars and High Yield Problem Solving books, and the Princeton Organic Chemistry Review. However, I wouldn't personally buy any single one of these except for one of them. I was lucky enough to win a raffle when I was in my undergraduate years in the Premed club. They were giving away all of these books. Now, they're not the newest of the new, but they were free to me, so I decided to take them. I am not going to read 900 pages worth of content for a general science review when I'm not going to be tested on 900 questions for science. If anything, from my personal review, I would say it was a waste of time for everything except for the Quick Sheets book. Now, although it's a couple years old and the time that I got it was a couple of years old then, so it's even older now, I realize that there's a lot of high yield content within that book and it's not a lot of pages. I can read 10 pages and get the general idea for a lot of concepts, or a general refresher at least, if I've already studied them and kind of genuinely understand them from my undergraduate studies. But there's a lot of content there that I'm going to need to remember because it's all high yield equations or just general topics about organic chemistry, biology, physics, cars, all of that stuff. So I'll be honest, I don't exactly know how much that book is. Like I said, I want to give away, but I'll put the picture up on the screen if you want to buy it yourself. Other than that, I did spend time doing the high yield content review. Didn't feel like I gained a ton of knowledge there. The cars section was generally just practice, and I feel like practice questions instead of reading it. Doing that experience myself would have been a better idea. And so I kind of mixed those together. And other than that, I didn't read the entire book because I don't have time, like I said, to read 900 pages. Sorry, it's only 772 for this one alone at least. So what my week looks like when I'm doing studying and what I have been doing since November is, because I work 40 plus hours a week, my day off is Thursday. I also don't work on the weekends, so I have Thursday, Saturday, and Sunday to really grind out as many practice questions or as many quizzes or tests as I can. On my phone during the day, although it doesn't really count or I don't include it as study time, I use the King of the Curve study app, and I'll be honest, none of this is sponsored and none of this, they're paying me to say, but when I downloaded King of the Curve, there was a practice question of the day and a practice passage for cars for the day. I feel like those are really beneficial, but I've noticed more recently that there are grammatical errors and possibilities for there to be multiple options or even the wrong answer entirely selected for some of those questions. Because I don't believe that it was professionally developed, but more by just a couple people who had some knowledge with medical school or taking the Mcat, I feel like there's a lower standard for the quality of that app. Although it's really good overall, I feel like there are a couple errors that I have noticed when I'm taking those questions or those practice tests that really don't seem to prepare me as well, because I'm wondering if the questions that I'm getting right are actually right. And so I feel like I have to look up every individual question after I get it right or wrong just to double check with other sources to see, and I have to cross check all the questions that I'm answering anyways, and I feel like I kind of waste some time overall. Other than that, what I did before I started doing those practice questions is something called Med School Coach. It's an app online. I ended up getting one on my phone, and it offered a ton of videos for you to take notes on across all the different topics. And so what I did was watched every single one of those videos in a 14-day block. Doing it only 3 days a week took me a long time. It took me about 5 weeks to do that. So roughly the entire month of November, I sat and did those videos, taking notes, filled out an entire notebook, just to get a general refresher on a lot of the content that I haven't seen in multiple years. Let's say from freshman year of college, and now having graduated, it's been 4+ years since I've seen that content from General Biology 101 or 120. So that was a good refresher, but a lot of it wasn't new content, just enough to get the gears turning and kind of get those cobwebs off of general chemistry, general biology, physics, stuff like that. Besides the Princeton Review, and besides Kaplan, and besides King of the Curve, and besides Med School Coach, I feel like I do a lot of practice questions on UWorld. And I know there are other medical students or residents or whatever who talk about UWorld, but I feel like it's an incredible app. I do it on my computer, I have it on my phone, and I just answer practice questions. So what you can do is select the certain topics that you want to see. I'll do that every Thursday, every Saturday, and every Sunday. I'll do 40 questions each day. I'll do 40 questions, then review them, then do another 40, then review those, and that's pretty much it. I do 40 questions and it takes about 2 minutes per question. So doing all of those, not always, but would take about 80 minutes. So I'll say an hour and a half. So doing 80 questions would take me about 3 hours, and then the review would take about an hour in between those. And so that alone would cost me about 4 hours a day. And then obviously I'll take study breaks, and it genuinely takes me a little longer, only because I don't answer all of them in 2 minutes, and the review I tend to get distracted. But when I don't have my phone, I feel like it'll take me about an hour and a half for those questions and an hour for review. So that'd be 3 hours and then 2 hours overall for review. So about 5 a day, which is really not a ton, but doing that 3 days a week, I feel like is okay enough. When on the days that I'm not doing dedicated studying, I'm doing practice questions on my phone. I try and get about 5 hours a week as well, because I work 5 days. I guess I work 4, but 5 days in the work week, I try and do an hour a day of practice questions as well to supplement what I'm getting on my days off. Now, what I did say was about a budget. Well, I can buy the King of the Curve app for free, but I ended up paying for a subscription for that, not realizing that some of the questions were wrong and some of the grammatical errors that were inside of that app. But other than that, I ended up paying about $70 for a 6-month subscription for that, because at the time I was taking about 4 months to get my exam done. So I was like, okay, I'll pay for 6 just in case I need to study a little longer or retake it. Then I might as well have that a little bit past my test date in case I again need to keep using it for those practice questions and the supplementation when I'm not studying on my days off or the weekend. And those books are incredibly expensive, especially the newer editions. So I wouldn't really recommend buying those, except for the one that I was talking about, the quick sheets and maybe that cars section, although I feel like it was good exposure, but doing practice questions instead of reading about practice questions is a little bit better help. Although I will come back and let you know my score in a future video as I end up taking that, although it's a couple months away. I will end up doing that and give an update as I apply, as I get those scores back and fulfill my application and all that stuff in the AAMC. So I'll come back for that, but other than that, like I said, the big main things are find something that works for you in your budget. If you feel like it doesn't work for other people, it probably won't work for you, but you know yourself a lot better than I do in terms of your study habits, the time that you have, the time frame from when your test is, from when you want to start studying, you know, how many hours you can put in and all that kind of stuff. So you don't have to spend $5,000. You could buy a single subscription on UWorld. You could buy practice tests and just do practice tests. You could end up studying for 6 months or for 2 months. So there's a lot of variables that go into studying for the Mcat. That makes it a really difficult decision for a lot of people. But you know what works best for you, and if you don't, then you can watch other videos, hopefully something like this that'll help you decide. Listening to other people that have gone through the process, if you know anybody currently in med school or residents that have taken it more or less recently, then that'll probably be really beneficial going into it with kind of some sort of idea of what it's like and what worked for other people before you start studying and before it's, you know, a week away and then you're cramming. But other than that, I hope you did enjoy the video and learn something new. You can buy those books. You don't have to. You can get a tutor. You don't have to. You can download those apps. You can get those tests. You also don't have to. Do whatever works best for you. I will let you know about a future video where my test scores come back and I end up applying. And other than that, I will see you all in the next one. Peace.